And in the end, most people ended up accumulating large debts in credit cards, of which these debts are very difficult to clear, because in the end, most of the time, you will just be paying back the interest and you remain with a huge debt which takes years to clear, to the extent that 20 years down the line, because I actually moved to the UK in 2002, and up to now, one of the credit cards that I got, I still have it, and I sometimes pay it full, then I went back and borrowed some more money on it, and each time you go back, they offer you more money. So the debt continued to accumulate up to this point in time. I'm still paying it back, but of course, when I was found by the gospel, I've now been taught how to live within my means. So I'm working towards clearing that debt. The next issue that I would like to talk about is the issue of accommodation. Because as we were coming from Zimbabwe, we were so used to being lodgers, renting houses instead of buying our own houses. No one ever told us that in the UK, it's quite possible, it's quite easy actually to get a mortgage, especially when you've got a good credit history. With a pay slip of 3 months, by the time I came to the UK, it was actually possible to get a mortgage, but I did not know that. So I lived 4 years renting from place to place. And what this means is when you are renting a house, you are actually paying a mortgage for the owner of that house. Whereas I could have just sourced my own mortgage even prior to me accumulating these debts in credit cards, in hire purchase goods and things like that. I could have actually secured a mortgage within my first year of working, but I did not do that because no one ever told me, and I was still caught up with the mentality back home whereby we never imagined that we could own our own houses. Now, the next issue that I would like to talk about is the issue of settling with the family. When I came to the UK, I came through a work permit. I had a work permit from a work visa. So my wife immediately followed. And by then, she was pregnant. So when she came in, after a few months, she delivered. And now we were caught with problems of childcare. It was quite a big shock to our system that in the UK you are not able to employ a maid. So if you have got a baby or if you've got children, it's up to you as a couple to provide all the childcare that is needed. And then with the issue of also going to work, jobs being quite easy to secure in the UK, it is sometimes difficult for the wife to stay at home and not go to work and depend on the husband, not because the husband would not be able to look after the wife. For example, in my case, I was earning enough to look after myself, my wife, and our baby. But of course, it was difficult to keep the wife at home because she also wanted to earn her own money. So in the end, there will be this issue almost a competition for going to work in the same household. Then another issue that I want to talk about was the issue of establishing a doctrine as a man or as a husband. because I had not been found by the gospel, I did not have a doctrine. I did not have an identity to pass on to my family, to pass on to my wife. So in the end, there was always a struggle for prominence, if I may say, in the household. And because I did not know what a proper man should be, I just went with the flow. Another issue that I also encountered as a problem was the issue of teaching our children our language. As it is, I've got 2 daughters. One will be turning 20 and the other will be turning 17 soon. I'm quite embarrassed that I could not teach my children my own language, which is Shona, up to now. So when I converse with my children, we are forced to use English, even when it is just we are in our own household. This all came about because there was again a disagreement in the house as to how the child should be taught. And as a husband or as a father, I was not firm enough to say my doctrine is that I want to teach my children how to speak my language. And in the end, that actually led to the breakdown of my own marriage. So in short, these are some of the issues that we encountered when we came to the UK. So in conclusion, I would just want to read Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 18 and 19, just to highlight that when you have not been caught by the gospel, it is difficult to make a reasonable decision. In the end, it leads to continual suffering or struggle in the household. I said in mine heart concerning the state of the sons of men, that God might manifest, and that they might see that they themselves are beasts. For that which befalleth the sons of men befalleth beasts, even one thing befalleth them. As the one dieth, so dieth the other. Yea, they have all one breath, so that a man hath no prominence above a beast, for all is vanity. So without the gospel, we are like beasts, and that is the life that I lived from 2002 until 2018 when the gospel found me. Thank you.
Greetings to our mother, Apostle T.F. Shuenga, all ministers in the body of Christ, bishops, deacons, all stewards in the house of God, and all brethren in the male tabernacle all over the world. My name is Brother Richard in the faith, or Baba Cement in the flesh. I was born again on the 16th of November 2019 during the Apostles Outreach Program to Namibia. Our Windhoek coordinator is Brother Derek, under the leadership of Deacon July, who is our SADC regional coordinator. My testimony today is about establishment of a business venture embarked on here in Namibia, which is the processing and packaging of honey, which is the product that I'm holding in my hand here now. It was not an easy road, I can tell you, brethren, as we encountered a number of challenges, since we're in a foreign land where they were already established business enterprises. The challenges we faced were and were not limited to the following: lack of capital support from the banks for startups, lack of marketing capabilities as we were not skilled in that field. Time constraints were one of those because I was fully employed and this business needed some time, And another was the language barrier. Most people we wanted to talk to, like the buyers, they felt comfortable in the Afrikaans language, which are not comfortable with. And also another major one was, the lack of support from the locals for locally produced products. And first with this, we had to navigate around this somehow. And firstly, we had to raise the capital, which we did by self-funding, which meant we had to forego a number of luxuries in order to raise that capital. And on the marketing front, we just went out and started selling this product to individuals and also public marketplaces where we were recognized by smaller shops who took our product into their shelves. And from there, we got some confidence to approach bigger retailers, which we did, and we were then registered by one supermarket chain that took our product in their shelves. They flighted our product in one of their promotional bouquets, which triggered interest from other chains who wanted to find out what this product was all about and who was producing it and from where. And that's how the product found itself in many of the shops now in Namibia. We could have celebrated then, but actually problems started because the established enterprises tried all manner of tricks to try to get these products off the shelves, and to the point that they insinuated that this product was not pure, it was fake. And it was then taken to the Namibia Standard Institute for tests, and it came out it was a pure product. I can tell you it was not an easy road, it was stressful, but I'm glad that with this way that found me, I'm strengthened every day, being equipped to move on and make sound decisions through admonitions that we receive from our mothers, which tell us to work hard and not depend on a single stream of income. As it's actually became apparent in 2020 when this pandemic came on, we had actually to rely on this income for our family sustenance. We are also encouraged by scriptures that we get, like 2 Thessalonians 3:10, which says, "For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. For yet that there are some which walk among you disorderly, working not at all, but are busybodies. Now them that are such we command and exhort by our Lord Jesus Christ, that with quietness they work and eat their own bread." And we also see another admonition by Apostle Paul to the Macedonian church in 1 Thessalonians 4:9-12, which says, "But as touching brotherly love, you need not that I write unto you, for you yourself are taught of God to love one another, and indeed you do it towards all the brethren which are all in Macedonia. But we beseech you, brethren, that you increase more and more, and that you study to be quiet, to do your own business, and to work with your own hands, as we commanded you, that you may walk honestly toward them that are without, and that you may have lack of nothing." With all this around us in these teachings, I'm encouraged to expand and try to reach out to more retailers. And recently we just got listed by one of the major retailers, which we're pursuing for over 3 years. Yes. And I'm encouraged even with the brotherly interaction with men's fellowship programs that we do, which encourages us to fester on. And I'm quite sure with the skills that we found within some brethren, we'll be able to expand this business further. But however, I'm also glad that through the sound advice, Ziklag sound advice 5A and B, we're also encouraged to be prudent in our dealings, even if we are dealing with brethren, knowing the propensity to disappoint between a brethren and a non-believer, so that we can forge our way ahead, knowing that there is a percentage of disappointment that we can actually get. This came from Micah 7:5, which says, "Do not trust in a neighbor, do not have confidence in a friend, from who lies in your bosom, guard your lips." And I believe with all these teachings that are coming around us, we will be able to advance with the help of brethren, with the help of some of these teachings that we are having, so that the next time I come around, I'll be able to give another testimony as to how far this business would have gone. Thank you, brethren, for listening to my testimony. That's all I had for you today.
Hello, Ziklag guides. Hello, brothers in the Lord. I want to share a few thoughts on the law. I'm a qualified lawyer, qualified in 1997, so I have more than 20 years in the art of law. So I just want to share a few snippets on how the law works, so that you also can be helped in your dealings with law enforcement agencies. Firstly, let me talk about the concept of crime. I know that most of you are in the diaspora, and you find that you encounter law enforcement officers, and some of you don't know your rights, and you are made to pay admission of guilt fines, sometimes unnecessarily so, because you don't have the necessary information. So I want you to know that this thing called crime is in two. Actually, there are two ingredients to it. In other words, there are two things you need to prove for a crime to have occurred. To prove crime, two things. There is what is in Latin called actus reus. Actus reus. That one is, it simply means that you have to prove that, or the state, the one who's accusing you, has to prove that you have committed a crime. In other words, you have conducted yourself in a manner that results in crime. For instance, if you are said to have murdered somebody, the person accusing you must prove that you actually killed someone. Okay, you get if you are just home, you have not done anything. How would you have said to have killed somebody you have never met? So they have to prove that you actually killed the person. The act of killing. Sometimes it is not an act of doing anything, it is the act of not doing anything. In other words, if you fail to do what you are supposed to do, sometimes it's also actus reus. It's also, there is something you are required to do by law, and you didn't do it, and therefore a crime, or the thing that you are accused of has happened. You see, so it's also actus reus. The second thing is the mental element, the intent to commit the crime. So they have to prove that you intended to commit a crime, because if you do something, say for instance, sticking with the example of murder, if you kill someone but you did not intend to kill that person, you wanted to shoot at a bird and then you shoot at a person, that's not murder. You have not murdered anyone. So you won't be charged with murder. So most of the offenses that you find the police will accuse you of doing this or that, don't pay a fine. Don't admit that guilt. All right? Don't admit it simply because somebody is saying that you committed a crime and you are quick to admit. No, you must know that crimes have got two elements to them. So if you are not sure, ask a lawyer or go to court and say, but I did not intend to do this thing. Why are you saying that I committed this crime? So the magistrate will then, that will be your defense, and then you will be acquitted. But if you paid, you'd have paid for no crime. So, but at the same time, I would like you to know that there are certain crimes that don't require intention. They are called strict liability offenses. In other words, you commit it, that's it. Whether or not you intended it, it's irrelevant. So these are called strict liability offenses. Offenses such as possession. Mostly these are possession offenses. Like if you're found in possession of a diamond or any other precious metal, these are important things that they think we shouldn't inquire on whether or not you intended this thing. So the mere fact that you are found in possession of this thing, we will not ask whether you intended it. It's a crime. So, but those are very few. Most of the crimes that you encounter are those that require an intention. So please know that. Yeah, that is the first thing I wanted to talk about. Let me quickly talk about maintenance of children. suppose you have a child who is not in your marriage, or who, even children in marriage, or those that you have, even if you are not married. Maybe you have parted with the mother of the child. You see, that child will need maintenance. Sometimes the mother of the child will take you to court. I want you to know an important principle. That principle says that a child must be maintained in accordance with the means of the parent. If the parent is poor, then the child will be poor. If the parent is rich, the child will be rich. So you will find that say if you are a president of a country, or you are the CEO of a company, you'll be asked to pay 500,000 a month for the maintenance of your child. But a poor man in the rural villages might be asked to pay 200. So you shouldn't complain. It will depend on how much your income is. So there is no standard amount that is required, because your children shouldn't live above your means, neither should they live below your means. The other thing on maintenance is this, that most of the rural folk, they normally pay what is called seduction charges, damage. And this is munoti pachishona sitakakura mbutswana pamashogatazi, but kana wamitisa mwana wemunhu, vabereki vanokubhadharisa mari yavanotibhadhara, because mwana wedu kana anga iri mhandara seisiameno, saka mari iyo ungaibhadharisa kana mari say it's $500 or whatever, I don't know, or whatever they've charged you, $1,000. If you pay that amount, I want you to know that it doesn't help, because you will still be taken to court and you will pay maintenance, because that payment. Maintenance is a common law. It's a foreign concept that is used in the courts. So the international conventions on the children of rights require that we maintain that child until they are able to work for themselves, or they are self-supporting. So even if you have paid that amount, in fact, that amount would have gone to parents and not for the child. So now you'll be required. So don't think by paying that amount it will exempt you from maintenance. No, it won't. It's better not even to pay it. Just tell the parents, no, I'll look after my child at court, or I'll pay, and then monthly you pay even without having to go to court. So those are two things I wanted you to be aware of as a man. The third thing is home ownership. Please, don't buy a property in the rural areas if you are in the diaspora, because mostly plots in the rural areas, they are meant for locals. So foreigners, you need to buy a property with a title deed. You inquire whether the property is a title deed, and inquire whether it is possible for a foreigner to buy this. As a practitioner, legal practitioner myself, I've encountered many situations where foreigners, particularly from Zimbabwe, they bought properties and then guys got money, but they couldn't then convert ownership into their names, and they were frustrated. Now, if ownership remains in the person from whom you bought, that person is going to sell it a second time to somebody else. So please be aware of that. The third thing I want to talk about is will writing. To write a will, you need a lawyer. You need a lawyer for that, because it's a technical process. There are certain things that you don't do. There are certain things that are required for you to do. But that is if you have got substantial. Kana une zvinhu zvakawanda nditi. Une maproperty akawanda. Yes, pamwe ungadi lawyer. But to my mind, if you've got a few things, a house, maybe a few cattle, and maybe just a few things, a car there. No, zvinyorere will. Just take a piece of paper and write. You just write on top will. Will and this nongorea your will. Zvanoshuwira zvinoitika wafa. Then you just write there my will. And then you write number 1, kana ndafa ndoda kuti imba yangu then you say where the house, you describe it with particularity. In other words, don't be ambiguous. You must describe it by plot number, its location, and if it doesn't have a plot number, maybe if you've got 2 houses, maybe you need to separate whether you are talking about the 3-bedroomed one or the 2-bedroomed one, and where is it located. Don't write things that people that remain won't know what you were talking about. Ensure particularity. Put enough particulars. Mombe. Taura ruzurwayo, taura simbi, what do you call it? The brand, the brand mark. What is it? Maybe it's age. And it kuti particularity. Don't create a situation where those who remain behind don't know exactly which property you're talking about, because maybe you've got several of those. You see, so that is the most important thing. So you write 1, 2, 3, 4, and then at the end you write your name, and then you sign, and then you write the date when you did it, and then you take that paper, give it to a person that you trust. You see, it's important to give it to a person that you trust. The person that you trust, say a friend here in Ziklag. You see, it's better than giving a relative. But if you've got a relative whom you trust, probably who is not in the same town as yourself, so choose carefully the person that you keep this thing with, and tell them, when I die, please produce this. Okay? Maybe you might want to keep, maybe even 2 people, make a photocopy, give to the other one, give to the other one, give to the other one. So, you are safe. But don't give to the person who you have written, whom you have given something. Because ukapa munu imbandit, womuchengeteza wili yachuka, anokwanisa kuuraya kana aningirika, anetiswa neurombo, because then they know they stand to benefit. Saka waunogoyera something muwili yako, usamutaurire kuti, usamuratidze chawakanyora. Ngamumutaura ndakaita wili, but asaziye kuti chakanyorwa mukati chi, because ndiye anokasika kubvisa pano panyika iyi. But so those are the things you must know about a will. Yes, maybe the other thing that I may want to quickly talk about before I stop, because our time is moving fast. Summons, kana wapuwa document inobva court, please. Usango manyoa kusaina nditika, kana usingainzwisisi. Don't sign a court document, don't sign any document whatsoever without knowing, without understanding the contents. But please, don't refuse to receive it. If you are served with a document, take it. Because some of the documents might be court documents. You know what? When you are sued and you don't go to court, when you are sued and you don't accept court documents, and you think you can frustrate the court processes by refusing to cooperate in that manner, you are deceiving yourself. That person is going to get an easy, very easy judgment. And to overturn a lawfully granted judgment, Amadzangu, it is not easy. It's a technical process. Because you see, courts don't want, they've got a workload, a huge workload. So if they can give a judgment quickly, they are happy to do it. And they wouldn't want that case to come back on the roll when it has been disposed of. So it's an uphill battle to overturn a lawfully granted judgment. Let me stop here, brothers. We still have many men's fellowship events to happen. We'll keep sharing more and more. Your feedback is going to be important. Thank you very much. Until then.
quite educative information that we have got from brethren all over the globe. First of all, we had testimonies from brethren that are in Europe. Quite interesting, my brother. Manzwa kuti upenyu hweku Europe uyu hausi nyore. Nema-human rights aya ariko kunana Europe uku ane mamwe acho anotoviolate the doctrine of Jesus Christ. Saka tatichinzwa kuti zvakaoma hama yangu. Munozviona sewo?
Yeah, it was quite equipping to hear the experiences that our brethren have gone through, especially those who have gone to the diaspora. There is a desire for everyone to go to the diaspora, but what has come out is that you need to understand what are the technicalities. You need to understand the cost of living. He actually highlighted many things, especially understanding the cost of living. You need to understand also the shops that are in the diaspora, and also to be not to be rushy when you go there and just buy, going on a buying spree, and understanding the financial system. I picked up about the financial system, but when you look at the relocation to diaspora, even in South Africa, it is important that you understand the cost of living. Don't just jump in the bandwagon and say, I'm now going to the diaspora because there is greener pastures. There is an adage that says, the grass is not greener when you are near. It might not be greener. It's greener when you are far away. But if you do not understand, I have many people who have retained that went to Australia, went to Canada, went to Mauritius. So understand those issues, and it's quite, it's not frightening. That is not meant to frighten, but it is meant to equip, that you do your homework fully. I think the other important thing that he highlighted is on finance. Yes.
Yeah. On finance, for real. You can't just go there and spend money as uchitedzera varungu vaya. Unenge wauda kutotedzera mbinga dzekoko sokutaura kweunoita vafana vamazuva ano. That's not it. You have to live according to what you afford. You have to see your budget and see kuona kuti budget yako yakamira sei. Wonatsorongeka. Wona kuti zvakamira sei. What start from the roots, what start from the ground. For you, that we're touching testimonies. We also heard from brethren Nehemiah Mugoni from Namibia, from Botswana, who made that he's a profession he's a lawyer by profession. So we had so touching things and so educative things that he said. I hope everyone, you learned something, you were edified from them. So have you heard anything that you were edified already?
Yes, the last statement that he mentioned about court papers or summons that are submitted, and he gave a caution on just signing. Those, I believe there are many that have done business law or that have done some sort of law. There is a term in Latin that is called caveat subscriptor. So it says, signer beware. So what it just means is, just to echo, maybe he did not have time because of limitation of his presentation. It just means that when you sign a document without reading, whatever is written on that document, you have agreed. You have assented or consented to it. So you can't say, I did not read it. It's warning the signer to beware. So you can't say, someone can just come and give you a document and say, sign it. Maybe if it is a reception document where you just say, I have received, and it is few statement. But if it is finer inks or finer details, you ask the person, I want to go through it or want to take it to a legal expert who can understand the legal jargon. Then they can sign it off. You can sign it off thereafter.
Okay. Hanzi totanga tanatsoverenga kwete kungosaina, unosaina mudokumende muchinzi uri kuzotorerwa mukadzi. Unotorerwa mukadzi wakasvinura. Saka totanga taverenga, kana usingagone kuverenga wotsvaga munhu anogona kuverenga chirungu chacho, because chirungu chemalawyer ichi chimwe chacho choda kuvhiringidza kuti ungosaina zvimwe zvinhu zvausingafungidzire kuti zvinozobuda sei mangwana. Saka unotanga wadedza munhu anoziva an expert okuverengera, okutsanangurira, wonzwisisa kuti zviri kunzi kudii mudokumendi iri kuti uzosaina. Oh, that was nice. So now we want to hear from another lawyer. It's a Brethren Tafara Goro. We want to have from Tafara Goro, Brethren Tafara Goro, ndo vachaita presentation yedu.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, brethren all over the world. My name is Brethren Tafara Goro or Baba Goro, and by profession I'm a legal practitioner or an advocate. I'm happy. I'm going to do a small presentation on issues relating to family trusts and real estate. But before I go on, I just want to put a quick disclaimer that the presentation that I'm making and the information that I want to assist the brethren with does not constitute legal advice. After listening to this presentation, you might as well need to engage the service of legal practitioner for further clarification of some of the information. I will try my best to simplify the processes because some of the processes are technical, but I will try my best to relate the message in a layman's language. So I will start by the definition of a family trust. A family trust is an arrangement that is made by a founder who then chooses or nominates some trustees who would administer certain assets belonging to the founder for the benefit of beneficiaries. So, who are the parties to a family trust? Firstly, we would have a founder, then secondly, trustees, and thirdly, the beneficiaries. So, by definition, a founder is a person who is establishing the trust, and trustees constitute those persons or maybe institutions which are then nominated by the founder to administer the trust assets. And the beneficiaries are those who are said to benefit from the arrangement that has been done by the founder. So how is a trust registered, or where is a family trust registered? with particular reference to Zimbabwe, a family trust is registered at the deeds registry office, where we normally register transfer of immovable properties. So the same office that registers title deeds is the same office that also registers family trusts. So how do you register a family trust? You register a family trust by crafting or drafting an agreement or arrangement that stipulates some of the terms and conditions of the trust deed. So a family trust is registered through a document that is called a trust deed. That document is, you can either draft it by yourself or you can engage the service of a lawyer, but more particularly a notary public, a lawyer in the form of a notary public. If you engage a lawyer in the form of a notary public, they will then draft the agreement for you. And what are the terms or what is it that you may put into a family trust? You can put whatever you have in terms of trust assets in the family trust, either it's money, movable or immovable assets that you have. You can put them in a family trust. So whatever asset, you can put it in a family trust. And then once an asset is put in a family trust, it is then administered by by the trustees on behalf of the beneficiaries, which means the beneficiaries and also the founder will not be allowed to deal with the properties if it is their own, but the beneficiaries can only benefit from the assets of, which have already been put into a trust. So I will quickly also go on to what are the advantages of establishing family trust. The first advantage of establishing a family trust is that a family trust, it shields the property from family disputes. Once a property is put into family trust, it is shielded from any family disputes, because once a founder puts the asset into family trust, it then ceases to be his property, which means even if he is married, that property does not form part of the matrimonial estate. So, and it also, once an asset is put into family trust, it is also shielded from execution in terms of creditors. Creditors will not have a claim over that property, because that property would cease to be the property of the founder once it's placed in a trust. So the other advantage is that a family trust, it has got flexible terms. Once you establish a family trust, in your trust deed you can put whatever terms that you want to put, which will suit your needs and also requirements, which will also suit your interest in establishing that particular trust. A family trust, normally most of its advantages are seen when you compare it to a will. A will, we know that a will is a document that is executed by a testator in his lifetime, but a will only becomes operational after the death of the testator. But in terms of a family trust becomes operational once it's registered with the deeds registry's office, which means as a founder, you'll be able also to see or realize the functioning of your trust while you are still around, which means you are also able to amend whatever terms in the trust deed when you are still alive. So that's also one of the advantages of establishing a family trust, that it starts to run once it has been registered. And the obvious disadvantage of a family trust is that the trust deed is a document which would require some expertise in terms of drafting it. So you might need to engage the service of a lawyer in that regard. But regards to the persons whom you can nominate as trustees, you have got a discretion in as far as who do you want to nominate as trustees. But in some instances, normally a founder can also be a trustee, but a founder cannot be a beneficiary. also in the same manner, trustees cannot be beneficiaries. So you can be a founder and also a trustee, which means whilst you are a founder, you can also administer the assets that you have placed into a trust whilst you are still alive. And also the other things that a trust can be amended at any time. If as a founder you feel that you want to amend the trust and put some assets or put some items, or maybe put some terms and conditions, further terms and conditions in the trust deed, you can do that whilst you are still alive. So you realize that the issue of family trust, I think most of us, we have not yet embraced the benefits associated with establishing a family trust. But I will just give you a quick example. In Zimbabwe, you will notice that just of recent, the government is put on hold the registration of some trusts which are not family trusts with the deed register office. The reason being that the general populace came to the realization that running a trust is easier and simple, and also than running an organization in terms of a private voluntary organization. So you would see that most NGOs, they resorted to running their institutions as trusts as opposed to private voluntary organizations. So I would encourage that every one of us, it doesn't matter the value of the asset that we have, but if you want to safeguard your assets in terms of shielding those assets from potential family disputes after your decease, you should establish a family trust rather than writing a will. Because a family trust, once it's registered, it cannot be contested in a court of law. But a will, it can be contested even after your decease. I think some of us, we are aware of the Oliver Mtukudzi family dispute relating to his will. Some might argue in a court of law that when the testator executed the will, he was not of sound mind, which means after your decease, there may arise some family disputes relating to how you had distributed your estate. But when you establish a family trust and all the assets that you have put them in your family trust, even when you are gone, those properties cannot be subject to any family disputes. So those are some of the advantages of establishing a family trust. It is not a complex document. It is actually a document, like what I've said. You can put whatever terms that you want to put in the trust deed document. The document itself, you can put whatever terms that will suit your needs. So, and also the other thing that you might need to know is that if you put some immovable properties like houses, or if those houses, at the time of you donating those properties into a family trust, if they are registered in your name or somebody's name, then you can actually ensure that those properties are transferred into the name of the trust once it's registered. Which means a family trust, once it is registered, it assumes legal personality. It is now a legal persona in terms of which it can be sued in court, and it can also sue. It can also open bank accounts in its own name. So once a family trust is registered, it can acquire assets, it can dispose assets in its own name, it can also operate bank accounts. So if you want to do some savings, that's another way of looking at that. You can establish a family trust. You open a bank account, you put some savings into that trust, into the trust account. In that trust account, you might actually, maybe in your trust deed, for example, you might actually put some terms to say that whatever proceeds from those assets, maybe if it's a immovable property that you put in the trust deed, the fruits from those assets, they can now go towards maybe the welfare and the school fees of the beneficiaries. Also, some might also want to ask and to know what are the protections or the legal safeguards that have been put in place in order to ensure that trustees who are responsible for the administration of the assets do not abuse those assets. I would wish to advise that our law, as Zimbabwean law, is very well codified and strict in terms of protecting trust assets. We have in our law a crime called theft of trust property. If a trustee misuse or misuse trust assets for whatever personal gains, they can be prosecuted in terms of our criminal law for the crime of theft of trust property. So there are various legal safeguards which I might not be able to discuss in this moment, and also maybe to share with you with regards to the various legal instruments that are in place in Zimbabwe, which safeguards the running and operation of family trust, and also which are able to hold trustees accountable to whatever actions that or to whatever decisions that they make in relation to the trust assets. So in brief, that's my piece of presentation. So I would advise brethren that we embrace the issue of family trust in as far as we want to safeguard our real estate after our decease. We know that we work every day, but we mostly do that for the benefit of our children, our offspring, and we do not want that the fruit of our labor after we have departed, someone takes it from those who are supposed to benefit. So in order to safeguard those assets, creating a family trust is the way to go. I thank you.
Been edified. We thank. We have lawyers in the house who have educated us. This is good. It's all about securing your property. Hazvinorwadza hama yangu yokuti unenge wakasevenza uchitiza zvese zvine corruption mukati, uchinatsosevenza uchibishuka uchidaro, asi at last property yako yozotorwa neavo vanoitomhura izvo zvimwe zvese nokumhura shoko raMwari vechikutuka.
Chokwadi Deacon, tiri kubatsirika pakudzidzisiwa nyaya dzekuita mawill netrust. Izvi zvinhu zvakanaka kuti tizviite. Tinovimba tese tiri kukurudzirika kuti tichengetedze zvinenge zvasara kana tichishanda tiri kushandira vana ivava nemadzimai atinenge tasiya. I think inini ndinoda kutaura kuti family trust yakazvinakira zvikuru nokuti inoita kuti vanhu vasanyanyisa kukwirana nokuti haukwanisi kutengesa something chiri mutrust pasina matrustees amwe akubvumira. Saka zvinoprotecta maassets anenge asara. Saka tiri kubatsirika zvikuru nekudzidzisiwa nehama dzedu zviri mumba medu. Ndinonzwa kufara kuti tine hama dzinotibatsira. Tadei tichitobhadhara izvezvi kuti tipiwe ruzivo irworwu. Handine mufara, handimene kuti vamwe vari kufara here.
Oh, this is good. Now we want to move to insurances. There's a brethren that is going to share something about insurances. So kindly help me to welcome Baba Mandirawe from Blawayos section.
Anamai, my brethren all over the world, as you have heard, Baba Mandrao brethren, Alfred Mandrawe from Blawayo. I've been tasked to present on insurance, mainly focusing on the funeral cover and the medical cover. I've been in the insurance industry for almost 15 years thereabouts. My area of specialty is mainly the pensions industry, but I've also equal exposure in terms of the other side of the insurance, which is the short-term insurance. So I'll quickly touch in the next 15 minutes, if I'm not mistaken, according to the program. So I'll quickly touch on the issues of insurance, starting with the definition of insurance. I'll also touch on what are the governing principles of insurance, what is an insurance contract, what are the types of insurance, why is insurance important, and also what are the potential pitfalls or the challenges or the technicalities that surround the insurance arrangement. The reason why I am touching those things or that framework is that it applies regardless of whatever insurance it is, be it funeral, be it short-term or long-term. So in terms of the insurance, the definition of insurance, we call it is a risk transfer mechanism from one party to another for a premium in return for a cover. I hope I will not talk like an insurance person or an insurance so I'll try to be simple in terms of what are the issues at hand. Saka in terms of risk, tungotaura tiri munomu zvatiri izvozvizvi. Vanhu insurance vanotaura kuti there is a risk that this war or this roof upon us will fall. It's a risk. So this is the possibility or the likelihood of the happening of the loss. Kudriva kwataita from town to Shuya Kunoko, there is some risk also involved there. Munogona kunge maita accident. You could have been involved in an accident. So this is the risk. So you are saying instead of now carrying that risk on your own, you are then transferring it to another party who is the insurance company. You do that through payment of a premium, not a premium for insurance cover. Cover was simply saying this is the compensation which you get. So I will then touch on the principles of insurance. There are generally various principles, but I will touch on the 7 principles of insurance. The first insurance principle being the utmost good faith or oberima fide. What it means is that there is need for disclosure. When you are entering into an insurance or when you are making an insurance arrangement, there is need for disclosure. You need to disclose all the material facts regarding your circumstances. Suppose you are taking an insurance cover and you know that maybe unomboita mafits anomboku affect. Saka, when you are taking that insurance, you are then supposed to tell the insurance company to say, "There's a problem with mafits," such that they will know that you being a person and mafits, the chances of the loss happening, they are high on your side because you are what? You've got an underlying conditions. So the utmost good faith, you are simply disclosing everything. Be it your health, suppose you want to take you will see later, you want to take maybe a medical cover or something. You cannot take a medical cover in an underlying condition that you do not disclose. You are supposed to disclose an underlying condition. Suppose maybe uripa cancer stage 3, then you decide maybe to take a funeral policy so that in 2 months' time urukufa. Cover inogona kuramba. Why? Because hauna ku disclose the material effects. So these zvinhu zvaunoziva iwewe zviri mumwoyo mako zvaunosangana nazvo, which the insurer does not know, which you are supposed to disclose. And then there's the principle of insurable interest. What it simply means is that you should insure what you are going to suffer a loss on. You cannot insure your friend's car because if that car gets involved in an accident, that's his loss, it's not your loss. You can only insure to the extent of what you suffer a loss from. So you can only insure what belongs to you per se. Then there's what we call the indemnity to indemnify is to simply to restore back to your original position before the happening of the loss. Suppose you have got a Honda Fit yako, then you insure that Honda Fit, maybe yanga yafamba 3 years. Paunoita accident, you hit a write off that car and you are due for a compensation at that or cover at that. You cannot expect to be given a new car because you are not being indemnified. You should be restored to the original position. What it means is that you should not benefit, and at the same time you should not lose out of the loss which happens. You are supposed to be restored to where you were before the happening of the loss. Then there's also the doctrine of contribution, or the principle of contribution. What it means is that if you've got my insurance cover with more than one insurer, you rather have one insurance company inokupa insurance cover. Why? If you are insuring one item with the various insurer, should a loss happen, what simply happens is that the principle of contribution states that that proportion of loss, suppose maybe loss is 1,000 and they are insured with the 2 insurance companies, they simply have to share 500, 500. And you get that, you have put 2,000. That's contribution. You cannot get 1,000 hook, 1,000 hook. Because that principle that indemnity. This one I'm talking on the context of the short-term side. Life assurance, or funeral policies, I'll touch on that. And then there's the last principle, which relates to subrogation. What it simply means is that should a loss happen, your car is written off or becomes a wreckage, you are given another car, then the ownership immediately transfers to the insurance company. That wreckage no longer belongs to you, it now belongs to the insurance company. And the insurance company can do anything they want because they would have what? They would have compensated you. I will then touch on the insurance, or rather, loss minimization. Sorry, the other 2 principles. Sorry, I will quickly touch. Loss minimization, what it simply means is that when you insure, you should also take some protective or preventive measures from the loss occurring or happening. Suppose you want to insure your house against a burglar or theft, there should also be some other measures which you put. Did you put my burglar bars around the house? Are there some vicious dogs which are there, which also ward off some potential thieves over the night? Are there also some alarms and motion detectors? Are there also others, maybe some fire detectors? All those, that is the principle of loss minimization, to say, in terms of you being an interested party, what measures are you putting to protect your asset? So you realize that the more the asset is not protected, also the more the premiums become, or the more the amount becomes. Then there's also what they call the principle of causa proxima. That's the Latin word. The causa proxima, or the doctrine of proximate cause. What it simply means is that what is the immediate cause of the loss if the loss happens? I'll give you for an example. You've got your car which you insured. Maybe you insured that car against fire, right? You are driving your car from the Mano Resorts. You are going back into town. Then you lose control of your vehicle. After losing control of the vehicle, you hit a tree. Then after hitting a tree, the car catches fire. What is the immediate cause of the loss? It's not fire. The immediate cause of the loss is the accident which has happened. The fire is the subsequent event that occurred. So these are some of the technicalities which are there. I think it goes to the issue which has been said, Brethren Kuti, the issue of the signer beware. When you sign these contracts, I will then touch on the insurance contracts. When you sign on the insurance contract, you also need to read those fine lines regarding the insurance contract. The insurance contract itself, it just stems from what we have discussed, the principles. This is just the document which you sign with the insurance company. It simply states the agreement which is there, the risk to be covered, what are you insuring against, the subject matter, what is the issue which you are insuring, the duration of the cover, how long is the insurance contract, the premium, how much is payable, or what are your monthly contributions, then also the benefit, how much is payable in the happening of a loss. So when you enter into an insurance company, you are supposed to have what we call the policy document. This document is all summarizes all those nitty-gritties of the arrangement. If you are in an insurance contract, if you have got an insurance, whatever it is, and there's no policy document, then you need to approach your insurer and request for that policy document. Otherwise, you might assume that you are covered, but you are not insured. Then what are the types? There are types of insurance. There's what we call the long term and the short term. There are various thoughts or various angles in terms of classifying these, but maybe in the context of this forum, I will just state the long term and then the short term. I won't go much into them since they are not relevant for today. But maybe just to let you know, the short term relates to, this includes motor vehicle insurance. I think that's the most popular. Almost all of us here, if you've got a car, you are somehow on the third party. Just a trip on a third party. But that one is not insurance. It's just an insurance for the sake of insurance. There's also property insurance, there's fire and theft, there's accident cover, there's travel insurance, there's liability insurance. These are all forms of short term. But today, in the context of today, we are going to touch on the long term. The long term relates to life assurance, health insurance, funeral assurance, the occupational pensions, and the educational cover. The life assurance, I will not really go much into them, but there are various. The intention of the life assurance is usually you can have an insurance cover where what we call the term life, where insurance is paid when an occurrence happened during a specific period. Okay? If you say, maybe I'm taking a life cover, should I die this year? This is the cover which I want my spouse and my dependents to be paid. Then there's also the whole life. The whole life, it can be paid through the entirety of your life. You just contribute. It becomes active when you die, so that your spouse is able to get a lump sum payment and also some regular monthly payments, which the whole life also allows a savings component. Unfortunately, in Zimbabwe, our operating environment is a bit not realistic, or it's not conducive for insurance policies in that context. But you find that with the whole life, you can actually take a mortgage. If you take a mortgage policy, right, you then cover the mortgage policy with your insurance. What happens should you die having a mortgage policy? Your family is not chucked out of the house, because that whole life now will kick in, so that the benefit, part of the benefit, will be paid towards what? Towards settling of the mortgage. So it's a very important product. Then there's the endowment, which is also is a lump sum on maturity. Then there are also what we call the pensions plans. This is my main field, or where I'm currently working. But you realize that there are various types. There is the NASA, the popular one, the scandalous NASA. Then there is the occupational schemes. These are the ones which are usually set up by the employers. And then there are also some personal arrangements, which you can take, some annuity arrangements, which you can go to insurance company and you enter into a contract for those pension policies. Then on the other side, there's also the health insurance. I think that was one of the key issues for today. The health insurance, this one is meant to cover some or all costs of health care. It includes the medical cover or the medical aid. That's the health cover. What it simply means is that the funding can be restricted to a certain level. And then it means all the costs are catered for. But you realize that in Zimbabwe, currently, we are having some currency issues. Personally, I also have a medical aid with one of the local service providers. But because of our current environment, you find that most products or health products, they are charged in Forex, and yet we are contributing in Zim dollars. So you find that there are some challenges relating to what they call the shortfalls. It's a very prevalent challenge which is there. But you also realize that the market is also coming up with what they call the US dollar medical aid covers. These ones, they are also a bit relevant. So what does it cover? It mainly covers your consultation if you go to the doctor. It can even cover some medical procedures. It can even cover some other medically associated costs. It all depends now. It has got various classes depending with the level of premium which you pay. So it's a very important arrangement which you can take. The exclusions usually exclude some critical illnesses. You find that some of the covers, they can exclude critical illness within a specified period. Remember what I said, the disclosure issue. You say maybe you take that medical aid, you go to medical aid, you take a medical cover, but you know that you've got a chronic illness. And if you claim maybe suppose within 6 months, the cover may be refused or they may be denied. Why? Because they'll be saying you are still under what they call the window period. You knew that you've got a condition, but this condition is quickly manifested before the cover can actually take effect. So these are some of the exclusions which are there. Then there is also the funeral assurance. I think this is one I'll also touch. I think it was also one of the main issues there. It's also known as the burial insurance or the final expense policy, final expense insurance. This one is mainly to cover the policyholder and also the dependents and also the funeral expenses which are associated. So you realize that you as an individual, you take that policy. Usually these policies, they cover your spouse and your children under the amount which you are paying. It can then allows you to add other various individuals. You can add your brothers, you can add your sisters. Kune vamwe vamunoziva kumushanditi, vanoziva kuti uyu akafaka zvinotarisa inini. Those are the people you can add. Instead of waiting for the day to happen, you rather prepare in advance. You add those people. You can even include your gardeners and your maid because they are within what? They are within somehow within the confines of your custody. So the funeral assurance, it covers the issues to do with casket, burial, cremation. It also includes even grocery for a specified period, just to give maybe your spouse, should you leave this earth, your spouse will then maybe be catered for the next 3 months to 6 months. It all depends. Then there are some which are called the cash benefits. It's in two forms. There's the one which gives the service itself. Then there are some which are called the cash benefits. The cash benefits is they will tell you maybe if you pay 5,000 a month, should you die or should your wife, should your mother-in-law die, we'll give you 1 million. So you realize that most people, they abuse those policies. I know some people, they actually use them for self-enrichment. It's morally wrong, and also even as brethren, not encouraged, not advisable. I think let's use the insurance as it is intended. But the only difference with this one, the cash, is that I wouldn't advise personally on that one. Why? Because it does not come with the convenient part. Because you still need to do the burial orders, you still need to buy the coffin, you still need to do all those. So you find that if you have got that policy and you are given Zim dollar, now which you are currently using, you cannot use that you can't buy with that money. So the best one is to get the one which comes with everything. They can even do the burial order and everything. It covers everything. It's all inclusive. The underlying principle with the funeral assurance is to ensure that the body is buried. I think that is the intention. One also other key issue is also when you should also look for what we call the maturity date. There are some policies, these funeral, where you just pay in perpetuity until you die or until you give up. Then there are some which we call, you need to look out for them, for some which come with what we call the maturity date. Maybe if you pay for the next 10 years, after 10 years, the policy will be ready. should anything happen after those 10 years, you will no longer be paying any premiums. It just provides the necessary cover. So that is the ideal. It used to be 10 years, but now it's around 15 years, 20 years, depending with the service provider. So it's a good policy. In other words, you can also even arrange to say, instead of me paying for 20 years, can I increase my premiums, or can I increase my monthly payments for the next 5 years so that it becomes red, or for the next 10 years so that it becomes red? Or you can even do a once-off payment. You just go there, you check with them, you do a once-off payment. Should anything happen, Basarakushanda also garine coffin kumba. No, they stay in the red. One thing which I wanted to highlight to brethren, especially us as men, we have been taught also to be responsible. And the responsibility also starts with also this issue. I encourage each and everyone us to have my funeral policy. I would also maybe through Anamai, through Vatariwedu, if it is possible, there's also that room to have what we call the group cover, the group funeral cover, where you come together as a family, as GRIM, it can be called GRIM Men's Fellowship or Men's Funeral Cover, which then includes everyone. Should anything happen amongst us, for those who don't have, this policy will then kick in. It's actually more advantageous because a group life, you find that is even cheaper than the individual because there are benefits which come with numbers. So this is a thing to ponder, but one way or the other, we need to have those funeral insurance. I will not touch much because of time on the benefits, but some of the benefits include the issue of financial security, savings. It also acts as a long-term investment. It also comes with tax benefits. It also even gives, for those who are in business, you can actually cover for a certain eventuality, so that it can give you that risk appetite, what you are saying, the willingness to venture more, or to explore uncharted waters, because you know that my insurance will somehow provide some fallback position. What are the key challenges or the key insurance pitfalls, which I've already touched on the issue of change of currency. There's also the issue of underinsurance. I think I've already highlighted, especially in the current environment. You need also to constantly check with your insurance if it is adequate in terms of how much you are paying. Because sometimes what happens is that you enter into insurance contract, you are simply paying, maybe, for example, you are paying $100. 3 months down the line, you find that your $100 is no longer enough to provide enough compensation for the insured item. Such that should a loss happen, I think that is one area which is a bit challenging. There have always been numerous complaints regarding that issue. Because the insurer will then tell you to say, your insurance, you are underinsured. Then you say, but I had full cover for my car. I've been paying with the assumption that I'll get the full 5,000. Then the insurer will tell you that, but your money you are underinsured because the premiums which you have been paying, they are not related to the product which you have insured. But usually some insurers, they do the usual revisions. But the onus also lies with you as a member, as a insured, to also check with the insurance companies. The issue of also payment of premiums or payments of contributions, you need to regularly pay every month. The issue also of the disclosure of material effects, I think I've already touched on it. And also the issue of the adequacy. I think there was the disclaimer advocate, an advocate. Issue you also, where you are not sure, you rather seek insurance advice. You can approach my insurance companies or even insurance brokers. I think they are better. They can provide that insurance advice to say, these are my assets, these are my business portfolio. How do I insure my things? It will then help. The last issue, there's also the issue of exclusions. Usually, you find that most insurance companies, they don't charge or they don't provide cover for supernatural disasters. Supernatural disasters like floods and tempest and other things which happen because of the will, or which happen because God has decided that it should happen that way, which are entirely beyond financial recovery, such that damage will be beyond recovery. I would also, maybe in my closing remarks, also want to highlight that as the insurance and pensions industry were regulated by the what we call the Insurance and Pensions Commission, this one is the regulator which oversees to ensure that if you have got an insurance policy, you are treated fairly. So I would encourage that should you somehow be not happy maybe with your insurer after having claimed or made a claim and they are not compensated, after maybe having exhausted the internal channels, you can also even approach the Insurance and Pensions Commission for for uh, for assistance or for their intervention. On that note, I thank you.
Wow, that was so educative. Tinotenda hama yangu, tinotenda for that. Ndofunga tiri kudzidza, ndofunga tiri kudzidza. Tiriko here varume uko? Tiri kukurudzirwa kunzi tive tino-insure so that we can have funeral insurances, so that we can have my insurances, say even of health, insure everything that we have, all the assets that we have, so that they can be secure. Kuitira anything chinenge chaitika kuti zvive zvinofamba zvakanaka. Hama yangu, maona sei kunhaurwa yeinsurance?
Nhau yeinsurance nhau yakanaka sezvataura hama yangu yanga ichipresenta kuti zvinoita sekuti kubirwa, asi ukange wawirwa nedambudziko ndopaunoona kuti inogona kukunakira. Inini sekuda kungopawo uchapopu, last year imba yangu yakarohwa nelightning and most of my gadgets akabva arohwa ese, zvekuti kuri kuti ndaizoburitsa mari yangu muhomwe nditenge zvinhu izvozvo zvaindidhurira, asi nekuda kwakuti ndakanga ndakainsure zvakandibatsira kuti ndiite restore yavanga vachitaura indemnity. And nhasi ndadzidza chimwe chinhu chokuti indemnity inorevei. Saka toda kutenda kuti tiri kudzidza, asi zvimwe zvachona tinogona kuona sezvinodhura kana kuti zvakaoma kuti tizviite, asi zvinotibatsira tichinge tawirwa neavanoti ivo unknown causes, kana kuti uncertainty. Vataura kuti kuita seed a risk to an insurer, uchibhadhara mari, kusingosidha usingabhadhari asi unenge uchibhadhara, asi zvinozotibatsira pamberi apa. Tinotenda tikoni kuti tiri kubatsirika, tiri kudzidza. Ndinovimba kuti tichanoita implement kana tasvika kudzimba, tisangove vanzwi chete.
Yeah, sure. Tikuda kuona brethren dzichanono insure nyango nembwa yepamba chaiyo chaiyo. Tikuda kuti munono insure kuitira kuti imbwa ikaisangana nezvainosangana ive fully insured. But vazotaura munhaurwa yakanaka yandaona hama yangu. Vataura kuti vamwe vari kuzotora insurance senjuga, vari kuzoda kuita zvokuti vatowana vatobenefita from those insurances. Unenge wasiyana here neuya asiya tauro riri nyore echienda kusports bet kunonogarako for the whole day?
Zvakafanana, and vataura zvinhu zvakanaka kuti handikurudziri hama kuti tiite seizvozvo, nokuti tinenge tatyora doctrine, tinenge tatopindamo vanhu vari kuita fraud. Because ifraud iyoyo kutoti uri kushandisa insurance kuinsure mbuya uri kutoziva kuti vaikuda kufa, wokuvainsure kuti ugowana mari iyoyo yoitwa paid to you. Saka zvinoitwa nevakawanda, asi ndinovimba kuti vhangeri ratinoteerera iri rinotibatsira kuti tisaita dzimwe mari dzatinowana neukopokopo. Ukopokopo ihwohwo handifungi kuti hwakanaka. Ndinotenda.
Okay. Thank you very much, my brother. So we want to move on and hear something from a business advisor. So let me welcome brethren Baba Mudawarima from Gweru.
Ndikufara zvikuru. I'm delighted to be sharing something in front of you. Ndikuona kuti makadzikamwa munomu. Vakadzikama nyaya dzemawiru nedzemaaccident nedzematrust idzi dzinenge dzisina kunyanya kuitira vanhu zvakanaka. Saka don't worry, ini ndiri hama yenyu. Ndinoda kuti tikurukure pamusoro nhau yakanaka, nhau yekuti isusu varume tibate tipidiguke, tione kuti tingaitire sei kuti mhuri dzedu dziwane zviri nani. Ndo matauriro andingaite kuti tine mutsenzekete sezvambotaurwa nevatauri kuti according to Ephesians 5:25 tinofanira kunge tiri mutsoka dzaKristu tichiprovide for the families and hakundikanika. Saka tinofanira kuzviona kusakundikana ikoko mukuita kwatinoita ikoko, kwekuti chero zvakaoma senyika tinofanira kunge tichiwana kuti mhuri dziwane chekubata. Right. Ndandida kuti inini handifungi inini kuti ichokwadi kuti things should remain the same. Things are not supposed to remain the same. Zvinhu zvinofanira kudi, zvinofanira kuchinja in a way nekuti taane a new environment, tine a new reality yekuti tine a new society yatinayo yemazikila guides. Hatingozvimuberirai maoko, ndiri kuona takawanda ini. Ndorangarira mazuva andakatanga masermons andoteerera ndichiona vanhu vashoma shoma, vamwe vacho vari panapa vakabva kure, asi ndoona kushamisa kwaMwari. Saka iyoyo tinofanira kutora mukana iwoyo. Regai ndikutaurirei zviri kuitika kana kuti zvinoisitika kana zvaiitika business environment. We have got very, very successful business people varipo vari maZimbabweans who I used to emulate a lot. Ndakazotanga kunetseka kuti ndivafarire nekuda kwezvandanda kunzwa zvavanoita nezvavanotaura. Nekuti one of that person, an example is Strive Maziwa. But ndakazoti ndachiteerera imwe sermon ndikanzwa achikota kuna Psalms 2:8, hands ask of me, na strive and I will give you the heathen for your possession and the uttermost parts of the earth for your inheritance. So ndakatoti inini ichokwadika kuti strive anototi iye uttermost parts ndiye anofanira kupiwa. Saka ndiye anofanira kuti vaedheni vese vakapuhwa kwaari. Saka bhaibheri rese riri kutaura nezvake. Ndikaona kuti magwaro ari kugurwa nekuda kwaizvozvo, I don't want to lie to you, vanhu vakapopotera Mwari zvisingaiti vachiti strive vakati ask. Saka ndoda kukukurudzirai kuti we have got a responsibility to occupy that space yakaoccupiwa nevanhu who are uncircumcised business people. We want to tame that area. We want to go in there and make money and be able to proclaim the good name of our Lord. Saka ndoda kukurumidza panapa ndigobva panapa. Ndikuziva kuti varume vari mumashure mangumo varikuda kundibvisa panapa. Hapana mapurisa here? Mogona kumbovasunga shoma kusvika ndapedza zvandoda kuita. Right. Ndida kutaura pamusoro pekuti toita sei sevarume kuti tione kuti tingaita sei. Inini I am a businessman. My business, I do printing, commercial printing. Ndinoita lithographic printing, kachirungu kakati nakei. asi ukaona masimbi acho anozoprinda palaito masimbi ekare kare. Ini pandakatanga kuaona ndakatoti mapepa anoprindwa akabudere vetanga utobuda muchoto chaimo chaimo utobuda bepa riri smart iro asi anoita basa. Tine zvakare yatinoita inonzi digital printing inoinvolve vazhinji venyu munoiziva yekuti ndo inoita zvinana large format printing zvemabillboards izvi nezvakawanda. Zvizhinji ndakazvidzidza ndamo. I don't want to lie, I'm not a profession in this field. Zvinhu zvekungoti ndakangoona opportunity ndikafarira ndikati let me go into it. Zvikatongotanga kudi kufamba wazvo. Kwete kufamba zvakanyanya asi zvine mufambiro wazvakaita wandofunga kuti it's an experience andoda kushare pamwe chete nehama dzangu. Saka takatarisa nyaya yebusiness tine zvinobvunzwa nevanhu zvakawanda. What do you need when you want to do a business? What do you want? Vanhu vakaita sei vangaita business? I can tell you the question yekuti munhu wese anogona here kuita business. Vamwe vanhu vanotya. Saka tikaita business saka ndiani anoshandira umwe? Ndogara ndakupindurai handiti? It's none of your business. And iwe haunei nazvo izvozvo. Kwewo izvozvo unozvidii. Saka mazikla akaizi tikaita mabusinessmen tose zvakaipei. Nekuti uchaona chero kudhara kare kwacho vana Jese vanga vangori mabusinessmen. Indofunga kuti vaIsrael chaivo kana tazonyatsonaka chaiko takunzwa zviri nani. Ko noti kumbovhiringwa akasiriya inamira zvakanaka. Asi kana tanaka zvinhu zvanaka, we must stand. And this is the time because already we have prophecies. Dzinotiudza kuti nekuti encourage kuti let's go into business. Let's take up business. Saka because we see beyond this dispensation. Tinogona kufano ita zvatinoita. Tichi prepare. Another thing is we have this time to nurture our ideas. Because idea in terms of business is the most important thing. Chino chiri important about business is not capital. It's the idea. It's a myth. We are made to believe that if you have got money, then it means you are going to be a good businessman. What I say when our politicians who have got money, they can run a tuck shop. Musi wane baba wana ngodzingwa basa. Unotomona on street. So I want to encourage you to nurture your idea and perfect it. If you want to offer a service, research on it. I can tell you kuti when I started business, ndakaita malosa akawanda nenyaya yekuti ndanga ndisina kubvunza vanhu. Saka zvimwe zvinhu zvaita kuti ndaizozviona through loss kuti ndaifanira kudai. But kana uine hama sezvi titori necommunity yakaita sezvatakaita izvi. Let's ask, let's interact, let's put together my ideas. I know kuti kana risati raregistrwa idea, it could be your secret as well. Nekuti hatigoni kukuudzai kuti idea haigoni kubiwa, inogona kubiwa. Saka tinofanira kunge tichikurudzirwa kuti tiresearche asi at the same time tichichengetedza ideas edu nezvimwe zvakakosha zvebusiness redu nekuti vanhu vanogona kutibira. Saka ndataura nenyaya yeidea. Zvakandita zvakanaka nekuti pandakazonzwa vhangeri ichitaura kuti chakakosha haisi mari totange chechi. Ini pandandamboita tumari kuna vamwe vanhu vanga vakutoti unogona kutanga chechi. Ndakazoona kuti mari dzombamusa. Ndaiko ndikamira mumberi kwavanhu tiri kuhwisiri kwandaya tiriko kushiraini uku. Ndaioma matemukanwa zvekuti Verse 1 John 11:35 Jesu akachema yaigona kutadza kupera ndiri pamberi pevanhu. Saka zvakandiitira zvakanaka handina kuzoita gava kusvika ipapo. Saka ndotenda Mwari. Saka right. Ndikuda kufamba ndamboti mapurisa aya anogona kuzononoka kuuya ndikadzingwa palapa. Saka ndida kutaura nyaya yeidea ndapedza ipapo. Tinotaura nyaya yecapital. Iyo iyi ndinofunga kuti tinogona kuitaura even at length. Ishe vachitibatsira. Ini ndandine torine mufungo wandinawo wekuti we as brethren, we cannot fail to do these things. Kana vana mai vakauya vakadzidzisa vakati encourage kuti let's get into business. I think isusu sema foot soldiers, it's our duty to unite, to gather ourselves, to see kuti zvinhu zvacho zvimwe zvacho zvaimplementwa. You cannot expect vana madha kuti vaya vazouya futi wewe wotanga kutiunganidza uye pano munogona kuita $30 per month titange business. Handifungi kuti tingadaro ini. Nevavararika vana mai vedu ava havana kana nguva yekuzorora. So isusu zvimwe zvinhu zvacho, obviously with some guidance as well, we're supposed to carry on. We're supposed to take the bull by its horns and do what we are supposed to do as brethren. And come together. Izvozvi tenge tichinetseka kuti pane vamwe vasina, hapana vanhu vanenge vachiti hatina capital, vamwe vanenge vachiti hatina idea, toitei muZimbabwe? Kune zvimwe zvinhu here zvichaita mari muZimbabwe? There is. And there is a lot. Because vazhinji vari kuita business, vamwe vacho havasi kuita business zvakanaka. Saka we have got this window of opportunity where vanhu vakalaksa vachiti hakuna chiri kufamba. We can put it together. Some big ideas. Zvekuti toda kuti totozonzwawo kuti izvozvi zvamunoona vana Econet ava zvatiri kutaura zviya every time unenge uchingosenderwa message, Merry Christmas, Happy Father's Day, Happy Mother's Day, Happy Valentine. We can have people who can start zvinhu zvisingatumidziri vanhu, zvinhu zvinomura Mwari from here. Saka I want to encourage you. Togona kuzviita izvozvo. We are more than big, we are more than capable to do that. Right. Ndoda kubva ipapa ndichida kuti I think it is also my proposition. Tinofanira kuve a platform where we nurture ideas. A platform where also we let capital meet my ideas. There are also some brethren, even abroad, who have got money but who don't know what they can do with the money they have. Kuti paitike some business, paitike some movement. Saka ndinofunga kuti tinofanira kuve neplatform yakadaro, besides the platform yekuti vanhu vanogona kutengesa avo, toita platform inobuilda ma-ideas into business. Ndoda kuencourage zve vanoenda mubusiness kuti let's be thorough. Product yaunounza mumarket, make sure kuti waita research yakakwana. Make sure it is going to change the landscape yepo uri kuda kuiisa. We have got docile business people in Zimbabwe. Unengori nevanhu vanenge vachingotengesa mbambaira, vanhu vanongoti ukaona akatobata shiri dzacho akatogocha, watowana munhu atomboita innovation. Packaging chaiyo is a big challenge to us. We cannot even brand our products. We need to be innovative with the ideas that we've got. Since we are a special people, obviously kunyaya chaiyo yakanaka. Nekuti zvimwe zvandachida kuzotaura zvekuti isusuka hatibatanidzi zvinhu, hatibatanidzi business, uyezve hatiti kana taane mari ndo imwe problem. Inyaya yemari, kuhandla mari. Ipapapa pakatofira vakawanda ipapapa. Uchaona kuti zvakatokosha kuti ukatanga business maybe utombove underground. Mari yomboitika shoma maybe kwegore or some months or some years. Vanhu vasiri kuziva kuti uri mubusiness. There is a tendency yekuti pano pavanongoziva kuti wava mubusiness, vanhu vachatanga kuunganira, vanhu vachatanga kuve even vana chaivo, chero vana ndombonzwa mukadzi wangu achiti kana achida kuda kundikoyesa unditenge chinhu, anotanga kuti ngatadze kutengerwa ice cream, kutengera vana businessmen vanotadza kutengerwa ice cream, watopa pressure yekutenga ice cream. Izvozvo hazvina kunaka. Ukauya kunoku nevarume kunoku, mani businessmen akabva atadza kuuya nesutu nyowani, hazvichaiti. Iyo legitimate expectation yekuti I'm a businessman, something should show kuti ndiri businessman, iri kudonhedza mabusiness. So isusu kana dai vanenge vagona imbonecha idea yako uri kuseri, vanhu vasati vakuziva, chero mabrethren vasati vakuziva, because vakakuziva kuti unaro iwe uchada kuratidza kuti urimo mubusiness. At the end of the day uchaita unnecessary and unexpected expenditure yakawanda nekuda kwaizvozvo. Saka ndokurudzira hama kuti profile yako as a businessman ngainonoke kufamba. My expenses ako as a businessman ngaanonoke kudii, ngaanonoke kufamba. Chinofanira kufamba income. Saka ndo mamwe small but important facts munofanira kuinclude kana kutanga mabusiness, especially mabusiness mamwe acho atimbofana kutanga aikuti kwanzi toda kuti tiite ane board meeting anechi ndo zvimwe zvinotinetsa izvo. Ndaida kuti tigobatsirana. We should be able, isusu sevanhu vari sober generation, tinofanira kutanga even mabusiness very small and per capital paya imwe capital raising technique inyaya yepersonal saving. Saka ukashandisa mari yawaita personal saving uchaona kuti hauna problem yekuzoti unoita mabig losses, because normally you start small and normally isusu kana nekuti tiri sober we can start small and by the time yauri kutanga small you have got time yekujela with your business, yekupolisha your idea and grow with it, which is very important to me. Right, ndakuda kutopedzisa. Ndichida kutaura neimwe nyaya iri pamwoyo pangu ndisati ndabva panapa. Ndambotaura nenyaya yekuti community yatokura. Ini ndaitofunga kuti towanda because vhangeri rakasimba rinouya rine simba richiti vanhu vanotiza vanombobva vese, asi tatowanda mufunge. Chimwe chinhu chinondirwadza inyaya yezvikoro. When I take my kids to marondera uko handifari. So I think kuti isusu tine musenzeketo wekuti tiite zvimwe zvinhu together, so that if a brethren in Mutara akati iye ane boarding school inenge ichiteedzera matenets egospel, musi unono ka primary school kid kangu kakatondigira kadi reFathers Day. Ndikamuti saka mai vacho havana kutenda, saka vakazviona zvaitika izvo vanotanga kutarisa neziso riya rekuti uchaita sei. Nevanoziva kuti ndozvo zvindirwadza izvozvo. Saka tinogona kuita something man. Hatingatadzi kuvaka chikoro chatinoisa vanhu vanenge vakacheudzwa vanhu vanoziva doctrine. We can do better as a community. We can do better. I hope ndichibva panapa pane zvimwe zvichataurika. Musazoexpecte kuti Pastor Baloyi vataure izvozvo. Isu tinogona kutaura. Kavakatotaura pavo vakadii vakapedza. Isu takutofanira kutoimplementa these ideas and make them see daylight, because iyoyo area yebusiness iyoyo sekutaura kwataita inoda kurungwa kwakanyanya kuitira kuti vanhu zvavari kunzwa izvi zvekuti ukaita mari ndiwe wakaropafadzwa zvinofanira kupera. I thank you my brethren. Thank you very much.
Oh, yes.
Mapurisa anenge asvika akandibatira vakomana vari mumava. Saka ini ndinogona kupindirawo mubvunzo 1 kana miviri ndozvandaudzwa. Kana paine anawo anofarira kuti tikurukure pamusoro pei maererano nezvebusiness, ndiri panapa. Ndiri kuona ruoko. Okay. Company registration, yes, it is very important. It's also a procedure inodiwa kuti ulegalize zvinhu zvako. Haisiriyo yega a way you can do business as well. Unogona kuenda into a partnership, and it partnership inoda a partnership agreement, and it can work like that. But if you want to start a company, obviously you need to have paperwork inotaura kuti nekuti kambani yakafanana nemunhu sekutaura kwakuchimboita vamwe, it's a legal persona inomira yega ichikwanisa kusunga vanhu, ichikwanisa kusungiswawo semunhu akazvimirira. Izvozvo zvinokubatsira kana takutarisa chinhu chinonzi liability. Kambani ikatora zvikwereti, handiti zvikwereti izvozvo zvinotarisirwa kuti zviperere kukambani, zvekuti kana kambani isingakwanisi kubhadhara inofanira kuti zvinhu zvayo iyo zvitengeswe zvobhadhara chikwereti. Saka this is an important aspect yekambani, kuti inozokupa kuti inokuchengetedzera zvinhu zvako zviri private from business. Saka ndoona chiri chinhu chakakosha. Ende chimwe chinhu chakakosha kana takuita enter into my business edu, let's consider the legislation yebusiness, kuti mutemo webusiness iri unoti kudii. I can tell you one thing chakamboitika ndichiri kushanda kune imwe finance company. Somebody borrowed me money akaenda for 6 months andamutsvaga aita zvegold. He came the other day anga aine chikachipepa ke2 kg so kakona so ndobva nditi munin'ina ndakaenda sorry mari yako ndoiziva enda ndatozvikangana. Ndobva ndibhatika inini mari ndogona kuishandisa, rega ndikupe gold wozara uchidi kuchitengesa. Ndobva ndanokorwa gold bvaisa muruoko rwangu, ndobva ndatobata ndikanzwa richirema, ndikadai ndikanzwa kuti riri kurema ndiro ndobva ndaritora bva ndaisawo. Saka ipapa ndaishanda nemacivil servants, we used to give them money. Saka ndanditori nemapurisa andaiziva. Ndikati vanadedza mumwe wacho ndikati ndine gold, ndobva ndirifeya kuvakomana wakuminerals, but by then indaitokaresponda zvangu. Saka ndaizoenda kuchikoro kumasikati, yanga iri Saturday. Ndobva ndatoti ndachimirira manje kuti vaya vandava pagold rare ndavamirira kuti vachinditengesera gold rare vandipe mari yangu. Kwakuma 11 ndauda kuenda kumalessons, ndikati chindipai gold rangu zvinenge zvaramba ndozoya toita mangwana ndiri rare. Nyaya yakatochinja ipapo, ndikatonzi njema zvikanzi une gold kaiwe, une gold, tipe license. Ndobva dzatochena. Zvavakandiita, they harassed me, dzakanyurawo muchenu. I think for 30-40 minutes vanondivharira kukamba. Pavakadzoka ndakati torai gold renyu ndinoda kuenda, ingondisiya ndiende. Ipapapa vakaita utsinye husingaiti, asi kutaura chokwadi ndekuti ininiwo as a person ndisina right yekufamba negold, ndisina license. So let's also invest in the knowledge yekuziva kuti what are we getting into. Zvinobva mumado's and don'ts emuindustry iwo ndeapi. Toregister company yedu ine ma-interest, ine zvinangwa, ine mitemo inoenderana nemuindustry iyoyo yozoti guide when we are doing business. Ameno ndakupindura here hama yangu.
You have partially answered my question. I wanted to know the procedure of registration of a company.
Okay. On the other hand, ndisati ndakupindurai, when you are registering a company, you can also go through agencies. There are agencies who specialize on that. To avoid mama errors anoitika when registering. Sometimes you leave mama papers are important, etc., and it takes time. Plus, vanoku advise on the best way possible. But zvinoitika pakuregister company, unoenda kwaregistrar company, wonotora mapepa ekufila apply for a company, wobhadhara registration fee, vokuitira inonzi name search. Name search kutarisa kuona kuti pamazita wanyora, normally vanokupa an option of 5 or 6 names. Saka pamazita aya wanyora vaya vanoda kutarisa muregister avo kuti hapana here mumwe akaregister the same name. Saka vakatarisa vakaona one racho richisuta, vanopika iroro vokupa. Iwo kana wabhadhara ma-registration papers, ma-registration fee, wopuwa inonzi certificate of incorporation. Certificate of incorporation ndeyekuti muZimbabwe munomu company yako yakurecognizwa as a registered company. There are also issues to deal with, especially kana uchida kuzoita kuti uchitanga business. You need zvinhu zvakaita sekuzoona vana zimura, unofanira kuzoona vanhu unofanira kuti uzoenda kubank unovhura account nekuti inofanira kunge ine vano expecta kuti kana uchita business auchazovhuri vana pala bank wakunovhurawo mumabhengi chaiwo ari registered. Mari dzako hadzichagari pasi pepilo, mari dzekambani dzofanira kugara mukambani account. Ndosaka ine limited liability kuti zvinhu zvekambaniwo zvinouya mubank account zvoshandisirwa ikoko zvichiperera ikoko. Saka paunozovhura account paya vanenge vakuzodo zvinana tax clearance, ndo mamwe mapepa aunozodi aunozoda. Izvozvi pandakapedzisira inini kuita izvozvo zvaitora ndofunga kwedu kugweru kumusha sevillage togona kuti maybe zvitima zvezvi zvinonoka kufamba, asi 2 weeks to a month unenge kazhinji wapedza kudi kuregister company. Yeah, ndofunga ndataura ipapo. Ndofunga ndotenderwa kutora imwe one question ndobva ndabva panapa. Right, taura new brethren.
Mazita Hama, Internet Brethren Donald Charamba from Upland Section, Waterfalls, Harare. And Ndafara chose Brethren Ninyama nayo is a business. However, pane zamataura concerning kudzonichi nature your idea at the same time abamazoti my ideas anoguna kubiwa. Yes, you are a businessman, sekutara kwa maita. Tell me, mungakwanisewo here kungoti pawo just 1 or 2 things or examples zekuzoni my ideas anogona kubiwa sei sezvatiri munomana baba nditika vamwe hatisi mabusiness tazoda kuzoitawo nguva iro neopportunity yekutanga izvozvo tigare takachenjedzwa kuti tisadini tisazobirwa maideas. Mazvita.
Thank you very much, brethren. MuZimbabwe munomu through experience I've seen there are a lot of people who have got so much money, but they don't have proper and right ideas to do business. So, vanenge vachingoita run around, ndosaka muchiona kuti kazhinji munhu akatanga chinhu munomu chinogona kuita 2 weeks chichibhadhara, 2 months chichibhadhara, 3 months chichibhadhara, 6 months. The next thing uchaona chine chaflada. Why? Because there are a lot of people vasina idea. We have got so much money. Vakangomirira kungozoita snipe ma ideas ari profitable, ari kuya nevanhu. So ndiri kuti inini une idea yako yekuti uda kugadzira hupfu hwembambaira, for example. Anditi mukuona kuti hamuna kumbozvifunga. Inyaya yekuti we are lazy businessmen. In Zimbabwe tongoti kana ari mangai tototora mangai wa tototengesa. Asi we can do so much. Tomboti uda kugadzira hupfu hwembambaira. But uri kuita research yako yekuona kuti ndozozvipreserva sei. Anditi ungangoviga mamwe ma aspects idea yako kana uchiresearch. Animaona maybe ungatore tongoti zvimwe zvinhu zviri mubambaira zvinofanira kupreserviwa. Wobvunza kuti zvinopreserviwa sei kuitira kuti usataura kuti pekupedzisira uda kuzopedzisira wakugaya mbambaira. Because mumwe munhu ari murima but ane mazimari asingaiti. Paunongoti da kugaya mbambaira kandigozobika porridge rembambaira uchaona munhu wese anenge akutoda kuti ndaiona idea akutoda kunoibreaka akutoenda kunoiregister. The other thing which is legal is just to register your idea. I don't know how nemutemo yedu yagara nyika yedu, the justice system iri very weak, but kana zvakanaka chaiko you can just register the idea kuitira kuti when you go further uchipesiwa even pamwe wakutsvaga equity wakudi unenge uine some protection, nekuti zvinozorwadza after working for an idea for a long time. Yandiri kuti inini according to me it is the most important aspect yebusiness. Saka wainecha kune rimwe riri mumvuru riri mumashadows riri kungotarisira kuti zvinenge zvine musoro izvi rinozongopedzera ratongo zvine musoro mani. Iwo mamwe mabusiness mazhinji akabuda munomu vanhu vakazobuda nawo havasirivo varidzi vemabhizinesi. Ivo vanga vangori nemari vachimirira kuti panongoita zvimwe zvinhu vakaona kuti zvinenge zvine mari wototora wotoenda nawo. Saka discretion iya discreet yatambotaura even kumari kuya zvakakosha izvozvo kuti ugara zvinhu zvako zvisina ngoti mwarara pese pese, kuti vanhu vanenge vakutoona kuti muchinda pane idea yafunga, anogona kutobudirira muchinda uyu, mainvestor vari kuita warm up to the idea, iye anenge atori investor kudhara, anogona kutora maingredients ako iwayo wongodi panozora pata ndaida kuti ndizviite zvatoota under the bridge. Ameno kuti ndiri kunzwika here kuti we need to guard the idea, right? Ndo pandani ndichiti ukange uine research yauri kuita about the product yauri kuita, unogona kusaisa zvinhu zvese on the table. Ndo pandani ndichiti kana utomboti uda kugaisa mupambaira kuti dzigoita iwo, because uri kuziva kuti maybe uda ma-preservatives, pamwe ndo research yauda kuita, hauchatauri kuti mbambaira ichengetedzeke iri upfu inoita sei. Wakutora maybe zviri mupambaira zvinoda kuchengetedzwa, so that vanhu havazivi kuti chauri kutaura nezvacho ichi imbambaira. Unoita scramble maybe the idea, kana kungoisa some form of password yekuti munhu haakurumidzi kusvika pane the real thing yauda kuita. Pamwe uda kubika mahewu embambaira, pamwe uda kubika ma-fresh chips embambaira, asi pane zvauri kuona kuti ndinyasobika ma-fresh chips embambaira ndofanira kuti ndibvise the sweetness. Saka izvozvozvo unofanira kuzoti kana wakuresearcha hauchapi munhu zipepa rose rakadai, unomupa chibichana kana paine waunoziva kuti anogona kubatsira, who is a scientist or who is ever. Saka ndanchiti izvozvo zvekuti we cannot tell people about what we even madzimai edu angambomira kuziva kazhinji nguva, because madzimai vakatoona vision ndo vamwe vanomaya nadzo zisingaiti, dzotonosvika kuti mangwana vamwe vanenge vakutoya kuti takatotanga isu muchiri ikoko haisatomberi iwe uchiri kunecha business rako. Saka ndiri kutoti let's be discreet and let's not disclose everything kana ticha research yedu. Handiti uda kusona masuits, uda kuti maybe masuits aya usone masuits ekuti vanhu vanokwanisa kuenda navo, kana kuti even vanofanira kukwanisa kuenda navo mvura asinganyorovi. Hauchatauri zvese, wosiya zvimwe kuitira kuti vanhu vasazive. I think last one ndisandagara pasi.
Nanchida maybe kuwedzera pane the question yange yabvunzwa pane nehama on how to safeguard also my ideas. If you remember very well, a few years ago, if you remember the guy in the Kasukwere, how he took my ideas from people. Agati tuguda kufanda my youth one my ideas, bring your ideas. So when you have got an idea, then you have to look into the situation. The way you have to present the idea vachiti kukufanda, how legit is and authentic vanhu vada kuita. Saka so many people vakaenda nema ideas avo and vakazosurprise vakutoti idea yake akutona the products atoko already on the street, but here asati awana any response from the governing body aipa vanhu ma-loans achoni. Saka it's another way also of safeguarding your ideas as well, kuti you don't just give information when you don't know kuti the source yauri kupa yakamira sei. Thank you.
Thank you very much, brethren. I think vabva vati nemo zvandanchida kuzama kutsanangura kuti there are hawks out there, there are predators vari kumirira kuda kuti vaone kuti idea inogona kutora Zimbabwe to the next level. Ichi ariko ma-ideas iwayo, but sometimes ane vanhu vadiki who are very young vasina ma-resources even to protect those. And also, we don't have the information in Zimbabwe. A business idea is the most important, it's the nucleus of the business. When you've got an idea, funding is not a problem. There are always funders very ready to fund my proper business ideas. But because in Zimbabwe, apparently vanhu vakaparidza mari stereki, saka vanhu vari kutenda kuti mari ndo zvese, whereas it's not everything. Actually money iri kumasure kwezvinhu zvakawanda. Saka ipapapo zvechokwadi tikave nekuti vana vedu kana tichivaguruma kana aine pfungwa yake yainayo business, let's teach them to be discreet and to be very suspicious nevanhu vanoda kunzwisisa nezve idea yake, oipolisha without letting many people know about it. So this is what I can say. Deacon, regai ndibude panapa. Ndinokutendai zvikuru hama dzangu.
Thank you very much for that admonition. We thank you very much for those business ideas that you have shared to brethren all over the globe. Vadikani tiriko ere uko. Hama yangu mamanzwa ma business ideas aya tiri kupuwa ni hama yedu.
Chokwadi takanzi tipidiguke kuitira kuti tisave ne one stream of income. Tine fresh admonition yatakapiwa pa Ziklag Sound Advice 7 timing chance and yakatitira zvakanaka kuti pavangu vachitaura nyaya yekunature, inyaya yekuti titore maopportunities aripo ezvinotigadzirire tineche. Asi ndanichida kubata nhau yanga chibvunzwa nehama yekuti how do you protect an idea depending on the legal environment. Nekuti pano hatisi kutaura tiri muno muHarare chete, asi tiri kutaura the global Ziklag, kuti legal environment inogona kutendera kuti uregister your idea, patent it. Waipatenda kana uchida kushita share nevanhu vanenge vachida kuita share navo, you can also make them sign ma non-disclosure yekuti havakwanisi kuzoita implement ma ideas yao, moa register ma non-disclosure achona, so that hazvizoiti kuti munhu aite take up my ideas or commercialize. Iwewe muridzi weidea woshaya cheuviri kubva kweidea yako. Saka izvozvo zvinhu zvakakosha kuti tizviite take into cognizance. Asi chandinoda futi kukurudzira hama panyaya dzemabusiness kuunderstanda inonzi value chain yebusiness. Usati waita commercialize business rako, maybe uri kuita test, understand the value chain yebusiness kuti zvinhu zvinofamba sei kusvika razonoita monetize kusvika kwakupedzisira, kuti uavoid nyaya yangu achitaura yekuti unenge uchigumburwa munzira umu uchiita malosses amwe ari unnecessary. Tinozviziva kuti business rinoitwa ramp up, asi pakuita ramp up pekutanga haumuwani ma-profits sometimes, asi as you go on unokwanisa kuzoita ma-profits, asi hauzofaniri uzowana ma-losses akakurisa paunenge uchifamba mubusiness. Kana wa-understanda the value chain nema ose ma-nitty-gritties anopinda mubusiness iroro. Saka izvo zvakatikoshera hama dzangu kuti tizive kana tichipinda mubusiness, uye tisagumira kuita a small business asi tiri commercialize. Ndinoda ngokurudzira kuti munoverenga background yaAckermans, Ray Ackermans, muridzi wePick n Pay, kuti akatanga sei. You'll be surprised kuti angoine kashop kadukuduku, asi nhasi Ackermans yakuNigeria, Pick n Pay yayo kuZambia, yayo muno muZimbabwe. So an idea can grow kana yanechiwa uye waita uphold my business principles. Kwekuti kuti mari yangopinda muhomwe yatove kunotenga sugar immediately, business harikuri. Ndatenda.
Tinotenda hama yangu, tinotenda. Vamwe tiri kurana ma-businesses kunge fanenge tuck shop, kuti ma-leakages echiwanda kupfuura mari iri kupinda. Saka we thank you for that. So now we want to move to the next business advisor that we are going to get, I would like to welcome Baba Gwaindepi so that he can share something that can help us in terms of business. Baba Gwaindepi is going to come so that he can share something for us. Thank you very much. Let's just welcome him.
Greetings, brethren. Right. In my presentation, I think for me to start, I just want to reflect on what we were taught by Amai during our first men's fellowship that we held in Ushewokunze, where we were all encouraged due to the environment. Basically, much of the things that are now happening had not yet transpired, but we were told that things were going to be very tough, so that those who are employed were encouraged to start their own businesses. So I just want to find out from among us, how many of us are running their own businesses? Maybe you can raise up your hands. Those who are running their own businesses. I see. I cannot say it's the majority. This side, the hands are quite notable, but this side, we have a few. So we still have a lot to do. And I hope with what other presenters have presented on and what I'm going to share, we will all be encouraged and try to do our own businesses. My own area that I'm going to touch today is just to assist those who are already in business to deal with the biggest consumers. By biggest consumers, basically I shaped my presentation to assist brethren to deal with government entities, because that's where I am. I work for a parastatal, and I know when they buy, or rather when you sell your items to such companies, you know you will be moving volumes. So I would like to assist brethren in dealing with those who consume big volumes, and also demystify the misconception or the myth that many have that parastatals or government entities, you can only deal with them if you are corrupt. From experience, it's not the case. Yes, it happens, but it's not the case. Why do I say so? It's because there are very strict guidelines which binds both the parastatals or the government entities and those they will be dealing with, to ensure that there will be transparency in the deals that you end up doing together. There is fairness, there is competitiveness, and you are honest in dealing with each other. So those that end up being corrupt, basically it's a violation of those principles that I'm outlining here. So I would say there are exceptional cases. The majority, they don't come to the fore because they will have been done according to the regulations or the laws. So what I expected for one to be able to be engaged in dealing with these entities is abidance with the procurement regulations that binds those entities. And mainly, the things that will be looked at is that the company that will be providing the services or the goods is registered. There was a question here by some members as to how people can register their companies, and the guidelines have been given. So basically, for one to deal with the public entities, you only have to have a registered company with a Sierra 14 and all the documentations required for company registrations, where the indications will be clear as to who the entity will be dealing with. You have to be abiding by many other requirements, like compliance with tax requirements. So you must have your tax clearance certificate or your Zimra registration certificate. So that from the process of that particular deal with the entity, the government will also take something. Then you also have to have registrations with the NASA to ensure that you will be remitting the contributions for your employees to NASA. That is another requirement that is basically looked at. And then you have to be registered with the Procurement Regulation Authority of Zimbabwe, PRAZ, in the relevant or respective category in which you want to deal with. If we are to provide the transport, and you are registered under that category of provision of transport, then you also run a grocery shop. Don't expect to get a contract for supply of groceries when you are not registered for supply of groceries. So basically, those are the complications that many of us face and end up giving up participating in the requests that would have been flighted by these entities. And then we end up just saying, no, those people, you will never get a contract with them unless you see so and so and possibly pay a bribe. In most cases, that's not the case. Then the other issue that I want to share with you is the methods that are used in engaging possible suppliers. There are basically 4 methods. The first one, they call it a 3 quotation system. It is simply a process where for the goods or services they require, they will only go get quotations from 3 possible suppliers. And the one that will have the cheapest to offer will be engaged. But it only applies to low valued items or services. It will not apply to services or goods that have a high value. For goods, the limit at the moment is $10,000. And for services, particularly consultants' works, is $5,000. So anything above those values, other methods will be used. And the other methods, one is called the competitive bidding, the other is called restricted bidding, and the other is called direct procurement. I will talk of competitive bidding because this is the one that I think many of the fair and transparent procurements we are done. Right? The restricted bidding and the direct procurement maybe are the ones that may end up being pointed to as corrupt engagements. But if the provisions are properly followed, they still do not qualify as corruption, because there are guidelines or stipulations as to when a direct procurement can be done. There are also guidelines and stipulations as to when restricted bidding can be done. So on competitive bidding, that's mainly the ones that you see in the newspapers, where an entity will be calling for the supply of specific items. And anyone, as long as you meet the requirements that I have indicated before, would qualify. What will then matter is what you will have offered in response to what will have been requested. Whether you comply administratively and technically, you will definitely get an award on such requests, provided your offer will be the best package, in the sense that it will be meeting all the administrative requirements and it will be most competitive. By most competitive, we'll be looking at the quality and also the price. It doesn't have just to be cheap and then be of poor quality. It will have to meet the minimum quality specifications that will have been outlined and be offered at the cheapest price, basically. So basically, that's the way many of us, if we have business entities, can end up dealing with these big consumers. Then, after getting the award, there is a predicament that many of us fail. That is the execution part. It's one thing to get a job, then it's another thing to do it. So essentially, when you are preparing your offer, you need to take all the possible expectations in your planning, so that when you are given the job, you should be able to execute. Many have a tendency of saying, we'll try to get the job and then negotiate. And many companies have failed to perform and ended up losing their assets, because also another issue that people need to be aware of is when dealing with these public entities, there are very, very stringent contracts that are entered into, which may end up, instead of propping you up, they may end up chewing everything that you may have saved before. So the execution part, it is important that you will have planned during your preparation of the offer as to how you will execute the contract. I would like to give an example of one common thing that I have seen many people taking for granted: provision of safety clothing. I have seen many companies participating in such tenders, but end up crying because they will have indicated that they will meet the required qualities, they will meet the required quantities and the timelines. Then at the time of execution, they will try to offer inferior quality clothing. Already they will have purchased or soon the clothes, and they will have encountered some costs. But on delivery, those items will be rejected because of poor quality. and everything that they will have invested will be a complete loss. So basically, those are the issues that we need to take care of when we are planning to deal with public entities. Execution and also the contracts that we enter into. Particularly, I think I'm happy I've seen we have served members with us who are lawyers. It is important that whenever you engage into contracts with public entities, make sure you have a lawyer who will assist you to interpret the terms and the conditions that will be proposed and highlight possibly which areas you need to take particular attention on in terms of the obligations that will be expected of you. Maybe in winding up, I would also want to advise that it is important after execution that we have proper documentation indicating that there was closure to the deal that we have entered into with the entities. Because if you don't bring closure in the form of possibly handover documents or other documentation that highlight how the deal was executed, and it is left open, there is a possibility that in the future you may not be able to get references for other similar jobs, or you may also have challenges that some may come and indicate that you did not perform according to the agreement, and it will be difficult then to indicate that everything was done as to expectation. Basically, that's how I have prepared my presentation for today. I don't know if I have the time for questions. No time for questions. If there are any that you feel you want to get on this subject, you can come through to my WhatsApp. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Tine technical challenge yatiri kuita. So tokumbira vakaconnecta pa Wi-Fi for now. Timbo disconnector. Thank you.
Tinotenda nekukurudzirwa kwataitwa kuti is not perception, maybe stereotype yanga iripo yekuti kudhila nehurumende kana nemaparastatal is always a corrupt, kuti ukwanise kudhila nawo. Asi vataura chinhu chakanaka chekuti nekuti ndokunomovwa mavolumes. Saka kuti tikurumidze maybe kuita mari, because kutaura nyaya dzemari panapa. Mama vakatitaurira pasound advice kuti vanhu tinorova imbwa takamviga mupinyu kutotaura kuti million ndida kuita million, munhu anenge achitya kutaura kuti ndida kuita million. Hazvina kumbonzi zvinoendesa kugehena kungotaura. Saka uye ukaita futi hazvina kana gehena zvinokupinzisa, asi kuda kana une pfungwa dzako dzinenge dzaacceleratiwa nemillion yachona. Saka tinotenda kuti tadzidzisiwa on how to deal with the government entities nezvinodiwa. Asi chandifadza chavataura inini, I mean supply chain, inyaya yequality. When you are presenting your products, kusave nema shortcuts, kana scope yaunenge waita respond to on a tender, respond to that scope pa implementation, implementa ne scope iyoyo. Kauchida kuzoita a business person anodhila nema entities, anotora ma big volumes, say ma government departments, ma mines, big companies, you need to adhere to the quality requirements. Saka zvazvinoreva yodzoka pane hama yatanga kutaura nyaya yemabusiness kuti unogona kuve unoitenda asi usina mari, how will you raise? Vataura nyaya yekuti tinogona kubatana sesu tiri vana vababa vamwe chete toita business iroro, umwe aita opportunity yekuita respond to the tender, tobatana toita pamwe chete asi tonyorana pasi sema guidelines atakapiwana namama vedu, nekuti tine vamwe vanovandira vari pakati pedu kuti zvangotsukira munhu anoenda nemari. Saka izvo tofanira kuzvichenjerera zvakare. Hanzi kunamata hakusi kudi, kupuza hakusi kudi. Ndatenda.
Tinotenda hama yangu. Okay. So without wasting time, I would like us all to welcome Pastor Baloyi, amai vedu kuti vambouya on the podium. Thank you very much.
Ndakudarikwa ne-pulpit. We thank God, brethren. I'm glad to be here. As I see you in your numbers, I can see men who have come from very far to attend to this special meeting, our Men's Fellowship 1 of 2022. And I hope other men also in various regions who have not managed to make it to this venue, they are also following from wherever they are as we continue to sharpen each other, to sharpen our ideas, to be encouraged, to be admonished, and also to bring us together for the sake of fellowship, because sometimes we communicate over the phone, we don't have time to meet physically. And considering this corona pandemic, that has also changed the course of action or the course of things in the world, the whole world. Business have suffered as well because of that pandemic. But anyway, we thank God, and I hope we are continuing to enjoy as we started to learn various aspects. Of course, there is a lot that we are supposed to learn. Time will always be not on our side, because you can see all the presenters, they are running short of time. But I want to read the scripture before I get lost, because I'm allowed to get lost today because it's a men's fellowship. There are no ladies here, so I am allowed to get lost. So before I get lost, before I lose my balance, let me read the scripture. Proverbs chapter 24. Proverbs chapter 24, I can read from verse number 3, probably to verse number 5. Through wisdom is an house builded, and by understanding it is established, and by knowledge shall the chambers be filled with all precious and pleasant riches. A wise man is strong, yea, a man of knowledge increaseth strength. So takafanana nehuni, kana kumusha vanhu vachiti kuchidzira huni vanenge vachireva kuti ngadziswedere padhuze napadhuze. Hakuna moto unobvira kana huni imwe neimwe iri kwayo. So we are coming together as brethren. I don't know whether I think about it. that we are the only men. I'm talking about male, the brethren in the male tabernacle. We are the only men that the whole world is hoping, that the whole world is pinning their hope on. The whole world. There's no longer men in this world. Men have been dispositioned. Men has been displaced. Men have now been, I think women have accepted authority from the men. Kubhora wanzi washiridwa. Unenge uchimhanya nebhora wabva washiridwa wabva wanodonhera uko. Refu robva atadza kuridza wanzi ibhora revarume washiridwa. Ndo zvakaitwa varume pasi penyika ino yese vakashiridwa kubva pamaposition avo. It's very unfortunate right now. If we really want to know why you have come here, the probability is high. If you want to define a man, people would say, Pastor Bale, you are saying I'm not a man. Let me lower my zip so that I can show you that I'm a man. African men are known by proving their manhood by lowering their zip to show you how man he is. If you are saying I'm not a man, give me a bedroom and then give me a woman, then I'm going to show you that I'm a man. But we are migrating from that mentality. That's why we are here. So that men are going to be seen by how much is coming from their head, not from how much is coming from their genitals. A house is not built by how many children you have born, or how much skillful, or how much strong you are on a bed. You say, ndiri murume, pana ari kuramba here kuti ndiri murume. I can prove that I am a man.